I used to think love could protect me from anything, that as long as two people believed in each other, the world couldn't touch them. When I met Ethan, he made me believe that. He wasn't just charming, he was magnetic. The kind of man who walked into a room and made everyone turn their head, and somehow, out of all the polished, perfect women around him, he chose me, a girl from a modest background, raised by a mother who worked double shifts just so I could have a chance at college. I didn't come from wealth or connections, but I came with heart. And at the beginning, that was enough for him. Our love story started simple. Coffee dates, long drives, laughter that echoed past midnight. Ethan said he admired my authenticity, how I didn't need designer clothes or fancy words to stand tall. Back then, I thought we were equals. He said I grounded him. I believed him. When we got married, I didn't realize I was stepping into his world, not ours. The grand mansion, the board meetings, the charity events, the private jets, all of it looked beautiful from the outside. But behind those glittering walls was a hierarchy of status and silent judgment. Every time I walked into a room full of his high society friends, I could feel their eyes trace me, not in admiration, but in evaluation. My skin tone, my accent, my simplicity. Everything was measured, compared, and silently mocked. Ethan always brushed it off. "You're imagining it," he'd say with that smooth, dismissive tone. But deep down, I knew I wasn't. Still, I tried. I learned how to hold a wine glass properly, how to make polite small talk about stocks and art collections, how to wear their version of class. I did all of it for him, for us. But with every compromise, I felt myself fading a little. The laughter that used to come so easily now came out cautious. The woman who once walked barefoot in the rain now hesitated to wrinkle a silk dress. Lately, Ethan had changed too. His affection turned into corrections. My words, my wardrobe, even the way I greeted people. He called it refinement. I called it erasure. The man who once told me I was perfect as I was now looked at me like a project that needed polishing. Then came the charity gala, his biggest event of the year. It was supposed to be our night, a celebration of success and partnership, but I could feel his distance growing every day leading up to it. His assistant whispered more, his phone stayed locked, and his mother visited more often, always with that cold smile that never reached her eyes. Something was coming. I didn't know what, but the air around me was changing, heavy, charged, waiting to snap. I remember standing by our bedroom window that night, looking out at the city lights. They used to make me feel small in a good way, like part of something bigger, but that night they felt cold, distant, like they knew something I didn't. I wrapped my arms around myself and whispered, "Whatever's coming, I'll survive it." I didn't know it then, but that was the night before everything changed. The calm before the storm that would expose who Ethan truly was and who I was meant to become. The morning of the gala announcement still burns in my memory. I remember walking into the living room, holding 2 steaming cups of coffee, ready to tell Ethan that I'd found the perfect gown, something elegant but simple, the kind of beauty that doesn't shout but whispers confidence. He didn't even look up from his phone. When he finally did, the look on his face wasn't the one I fell in love with. It was cold, calculating. "You don't need to worry about the gala," he said flatly. "You're not attending this year." At first, I laughed, thinking he was joking, but his expression didn't change. My smile faded. "What do you mean I'm not attending?" "It's your company's event. Our event." He sighed like I was exhausting him. "It's not personal," he said. "It's just, you don't exactly fit in with that crowd. It's going to be a very high-profile night. Investors, press, politicians, people who expect a certain level of class." For a moment, I couldn't breathe. I asked quietly, "And what exactly am I lacking?" He didn't answer right away. He just looked at me like he was studying a stranger. "You're too simple," he finally said. "You don't understand how these circles work. You talk too honestly. You don't carry yourself like them." I felt the sting like a slap. The man who once said he loved me because I was real was now ashamed of that very thing. I wanted to scream, to remind him how many late nights I spent editing his proposals, how I helped him draft his first pitch, how I believed in him before anyone else did. But the words stayed trapped behind my teeth. Later that day, his mother came by, all pearls and perfume. She sat on the couch, smiling politely while twisting the knife a little deeper. "Sweetheart," she said softly, "you should understand, these events are for people who know how to represent the family image. Don't take it personally." Her words dripped with poison masked as pity. That night, I stood in front of the mirror, staring at the reflection of a woman trying to recognize herself. I wasn't angry yet, just numb. I'd traded my independence, my career, and my voice for a man who now thought I was beneath him. The silence in our mansion was deafening. I realized something crucial in that moment. Respect isn't lost all at once. It fades, conversation by conversation, insult by insult, until one day you look up and realize you're invisible to the person you loved most. And I swore to myself right then I might be invisible to him now, but not for long. The night after he told me I wasn't classy enough, I didn't sleep. I lay there staring at the ceiling, feeling humiliation burn in my chest like fire. Every word he said replayed over and over. Too simple, not enough, not one of them. The old me would have cried herself empty, but something in me shifted that night. Maybe it was anger, maybe it was pride, or maybe it was the quiet realization that I had spent too long trying to be worthy of someone who had already stopped seeing my worth. By morning, I wasn't broken anymore. I was awake. I poured myself a cup of coffee, opened my laptop, and went back to something I hadn't touched in years. My old business plan. Before Ethan, I had built a small consultancy helping women launch startups. I paused it after we married, believing my role was to support his empire. But that morning, I reactivated everything. My website, my contacts, my purpose. Within hours, old clients were emailing me, saying they'd been waiting for me to come back. Over the next few days, I worked silently. Ethan thought I was sulking. In truth, I was rebuilding. I met with my best friend Lila, a designer I once helped fund. When I told her what happened, she didn't pity me. She smiled slowly and said, "Then let's make them choke on their own standards." We spent hours designing something breathtaking, elegant, commanding, and powerful. A gown that didn't scream wealth but radiated presence. While Ethan prepared for his perfect gala, I prepared my own moves. I reached out to people he underestimated, investors, philanthropists, and CEOs he thought were loyal only to him. What he didn't know was that I had quietly advised many of them behind the scenes. I was the one who helped them make decisions that saved millions. They respected me, even if he didn't. And when one of them mentioned the gala's biggest donation sponsor, an anonymous benefactor funding a new women's initiative, I smiled, because that sponsor was me. That was the moment I knew my silence had power. I didn't need to shout, argue, or beg to be seen. I only needed to remember who I was before he tried to define me. So when the night of the gala arrived, I didn't go as someone's wife. I went as the woman who built her own name, and I was ready to make them all remember it. The night of the gala felt like walking into the heart of every memory he tried to bury me under. I remember standing outside the grand ballroom, the sound of violins floating through the air, laughter echoing from people who had once looked through me like I was invisible. My hands trembled for a second, not from fear, but from power. I wasn't the same woman who cried in silence anymore. I was the woman who came to reclaim her place, not beside him, but above him. When I stepped through the doors, the entire room shifted. Conversations faltered. Glasses froze mid-air, eyes turned. I could feel their confusion ripple like a wave. The same people who once whispered that I wasn't elegant enough now couldn't look away. My black gown flowed like liquid silk, the diamond earrings catching the light as if to announce that I had arrived. Every step I took was deliberate, calm, controlled, dangerous in its quietness. Ethan was standing near the stage, smiling for photographers, his hand around the waist of his new classy companion, a model whose beauty was as rehearsed as her laugh. When he saw me, his face drained of color. He blinked, once, twice, as if trying to confirm that I was real. The whispers around him grew louder. The reporters who ignored me in the past suddenly rushed forward. "Oh my God, that's his wife!" someone whispered. I didn't say a word. I didn't need to. I walked past him, brushing lightly against his shoulder, and smiled just enough for the cameras to catch. He turned, his voice low but trembling. "What are you doing here?" "Attending a gala," I said smoothly. "The one I helped fund." His confusion was priceless. The host on stage tapped the microphone, announcing that it was time to thank the evening's anonymous donor, the one who had funded the entire $50 million charity initiative. "Ladies and gentlemen," he said, "please welcome the woman whose generosity made tonight possible, Mrs. Evelyn Carter." Gasps filled the air as spotlights turned toward me. Ethan froze. His date stepped back awkwardly. His mother's jaw tightened. Cameras flashed so fast it felt like lightning. I walked up to the stage, my heels echoing against marble floors, and took the microphone. "Good evening," I began, voice calm but steady. When I was told that this gala represented grace, class, and compassion, I knew I wanted to be part of it, not for appearances, but for purpose. The crowd leaned in. "True class," I continued, "isn't about what you wear or how you speak. It's about how you treat people when no one's watching." The applause was thunderous. I looked down at Ethan, pale, silent, trapped in the image he'd built. And for the first time, I didn't feel anger. I felt peace. Because in that moment, I had become everything he said I wasn't, not to prove him wrong, but to prove myself right. I handed the microphone back, turned to the audience with a serene smile, and walked off the stage, leaving him standing there, surrounded by flashes, lies, and the wreckage of his own arrogance. That was the night I stopped being the woman he rejected, and became the woman no one could forget. The morning after the gala, my name was everywhere. Headlines, interviews, trending hashtags. The secret philanthropist who stunned the elite. Billionaire's wife outshines husband at charity gala. Reporters called me elegant, graceful, powerful. The same media that once treated me like a background accessory now wanted my story. I didn't gloat, but I won't lie. It felt good. Not because I wanted fame, but because the truth had finally stepped into the light. Ethan didn't take it well. His calls came one after another, at first soft, then frantic, then angry. "You humiliated me," he said. "Do you have any idea what this looks like?" I replied quietly, "Yes." Honest. He didn't know that while I was rebuilding myself, I was also preparing for this day. I had kept records, his secret transfers, his fake charity deductions, the way he used my name on paperwork without my consent. I had warned him before to separate his ego from his business. He didn't listen. So when I met the board that Monday morning, I wasn't just the wife he'd dismissed, I was the majority shareholder. The meeting room went silent when I walked in. I laid out the evidence calmly, no anger, no shouting, just facts. "This," I said, pointing to the projected numbers, "is what happens when arrogance blinds leadership." The board members shifted uncomfortably. Ethan tried to interrupt, but the chairman stopped him. For the first time, I had the floor. By the end of that meeting, the decision was unanimous. Ethan was removed as CEO. His accounts were frozen pending investigation. His name, once printed in gold, was now whispered with shame. He walked out of that building with his tie undone, surrounded by cameras flashing mercilessly. I didn't smile, not once. Because revenge wasn't supposed to make me smaller, it was meant to free me. I stood on the steps, watching him fade into the chaos he created, and whispered to myself, "This is what dignity looks like." Later that week, I received hundreds of messages from women who had seen the story, women who'd been silenced, overlooked, or told they weren't enough, and that's when I knew. This wasn't about bringing him down anymore. It was about standing tall for every woman who'd ever been told she didn't belong in the room she built. When the dust finally settled, silence became my best friend. For the first time in years, my days weren't filled with tension, correction, or pretending to be someone I wasn't. I woke up to peace. Not perfection, just peace. The kind that comes when you stop chasing validation and start remembering your own worth. Ethan tried to reach out a few times, but I never answered. There was nothing left to say. His empire crumbled, his so-called friends vanished, and the woman he paraded at the gala disappeared the moment the cameras stopped flashing. Meanwhile, I was building something new, not out of revenge, but from rebirth. I started a foundation for women like me. Women who gave everything to someone who made them feel like nothing. We offered scholarships, mentorships, and most importantly, hope. I poured my heart into that work, and every story I heard reminded me how universal pain can be, and how powerful healing truly is. Sometimes people ask if I regret what happened. I don't. I regret believing for so long that love means shrinking yourself for someone else's comfort. I regret silencing my voice just to make someone else feel big. But I don't regret walking away. Because that walk, that quiet final step, was the loudest declaration of self-respect I've ever made. And now, when I pass by the mirror, I see her, the woman he said wasn't classy enough, the woman he tried to erase. She's still here, stronger, wiser, and unshakably sure of who she is. I didn't ruin him. I simply stopped saving him. And that, right there, was the most beautiful ending I could have ever written for myself.